Shotgun with Charlie.
Riding shotgun refers to the practice of sitting next to the driver in a moving vehicle. The term riding shotgun came around after the time of the stagecoach, when somebody used to sit next to the driver holding a shotgun, in case they ran into bandits. My name is Charlie Cook, and I drive a lot. I like to talk to people while I'm driving, so I interview people in my car while I'm driving. Welcome to Riding Shotgun with Charlie.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this episode of Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Today I have with me author and Second Amendment advocate and speaker and a former, can I say former rock star?
Well, I don't know if I was ever a rock star.
You got the glasses for it.
All right.
But he totally looks like a rock star. His name is Dan Wos. Dan, thank you for being on the show. We are here in upstate New York where are we at?
Right now we're in Ballston Spa.
Ballston Spa.
We're headed towards Saratoga Springs. Most people might know Saratoga Springs because of the racetrack, the horse track. The horse track.
I do know this. There are more horses right there.
Oh, sorry. No.
There are, we're going to talk about gun stuff and people, but there are more horses' asses in this world than there are horses.
Yeah. Believe me, I know most of them.
Totally. All right, so so you're an author. Before you became an author, you weren't a gun guy, but you're a gun guy now, which is really cool. How did you get into this? Like, did you grow up shooting and hunting?
Well, yeah, I did. As a matter of fact, my story's kind of unique. So I grew up hunting and target shooting with my dad. Mm-hmm. And so I knew guns. I wasn't scared of them. I had a good knowledge of how to use them, how to clean them, how to, felt comfortable around them. We always had guns in the house.
Yeah.
And but it wasn't until he died when I was 24. So I got into my 20s. I was playing in rock bands, and I was kind of hanging with the wrong crowd. I don't mean bank robbers and drug dealers.
Right.
I mean anti-gun liberals.
The musicians aren't the wrong guys.
No.
Well,
not all of them were, but there, some friends that I was surrounding myself with were kind of anti-gun,
right,
left-wing kind of guys. Not that they were bad people.
Right, they're certainly not bad people, but they just have different. Go ahead.
Well, they certainly have different views on guns, and that
Yes.
influenced the way I started to think about guns. So
right.
So I started to take on this anti-gun approach kind of thing because of we talked about this earlier. We are who we surround ourselves with. We turn into our environment kind of thing.
Yeah, this is why our mom and dad used to tell us, be careful who you hang out with.
Exactly. So I started to take on that anti-gun mindset. Mm-hmm. But the problem with me, and I'm glad I had this problem, is because I had two very conflicting beliefs about guns. So
mm-hmm.
they call that, I was doing mental gymnastics most of the time, because on one hand, I knew guns were safe and fun and brought my dad and me together. On the other hand, I had these people in my ear telling me guns are bad and scary and dangerous.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like they call it the cognitive dissonance, two different beliefs that conflict with each other in your head. So I went through that for a while, and then logic started to overcome the anti-gun fantasy, and I started to understand that maybe this anti-gun narrative is not so accurate after all.
Right.
And then I had a situation in my life with my wife and I. Were coming out of a late night movie theater, and I tell the story in detail in Good Gun Bad Guy.
The first book.
The first one, yeah.
Yeah.
We're coming out of a late night movie theater, Cross Gates Mall, Albany, New York. The back entrance into the movie theater, part of the mall, and we're walking out down the sidewalk mm-hmm. into the dark parking lot, and we had a run-in with this guy. And like I said, I'll tell all the details in the book, but it was just enough to help me realize that night I wouldn't have been able to protect my wife if I needed to. Luckily, I didn't need to, and we got to the car unharmed. Everything was good. But the turning point of that night was when I was putting the key in the ignition. I had this just total kind of really just a flip of the way I was thinking. It totally turned me around. I told my wife, I remember specifically while I was putting the key in the ignition, I turned to her and I said, "I'm sorry." And she didn't know why I was apologizing. She said, "What are you talking about? Why are you apologizing? You didn't do anything."
Right.
She said that, it was that guy and you didn't do anything.
Right. You didn't move. He didn't move.
Right. I said, "But I'm sorry, because if something happened, I wouldn't have been able. I don't know if I've been able to, protect you." And
he was a big guy too.
He was a big
right?
guy. Yeah, he was a big guy, and he was pissed off, and he didn't know us. We just happened to be there, and if it wasn't for me just keeping my mouth shut, we would have. Who
knows what could have
gone at it, and you don't know what would have happened. So I told her that night. I said, "I'm getting a gun," and she didn't. She came from a family where they were a kind of a non-gun family. They didn't go either way, pro or con. They, pro or anti.
Yeah.
She just didn't know anything about guns. So getting her to, and I remember from my childhood, I know about guns.
Right.
I had to retrain, of course, and stuff.
Sure.
But so as I started to research what handgun I'm going to carry.
Wow, you went right for carrying a handgun.
Oh,
This is what it's for.
Yeah, well, I suppose if I'd never held a gun in my life before, it would have taken a different path. But I knew about guns. I shot handguns my childhood. So
right.
The strange part about it is that I let myself go anti-gun for a while in my teens and 20s.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I was researching safes and learning about ammo, what type of ammo to carry, and what type of gun I wanted. Am I going 380? Am I going 9mm sizes? Safeties? Am I carrying in the chamber? With one in the chamber? How many rounds? All the stuff that we think about when we carry a gun.
Yeah.
How am I going to carry it? Am I going to try different ways? Am I going to carry it in the hip, inner, outer?
Mm-hmm.
Appendix, front. What am I going to do?
Yeah.
So all that stuff I researched, and I brought her along for the entire process. Well, one day she sees me mounting the safe, in the house, and she kind of knew at that point there was no turning back. And what I say is, and I tell this to everybody, and I to me this is the way it should be done. If you have someone in your family who's not on board, don't ask permission. You get them on board. You educate them and you help them understand, because their safety is more important than their fear of guns.
That's a great point. I know plenty of people that are, and I hate to say it's guys versus gals, but I know plenty of guys that are into guns and into shooting and into hunting and whatever, IDPA and carrying, but their wives want nothing to do with it. Nothing to do with it. They don't even want to know that they're in the house.
Yeah. You have to ask yourself, do you want to, make your wife happy, or do you want to keep her safe?
That's what did it with me. Is after I had a son, I now had someone I needed to protect.
Yeah.
He's my responsibility.
Right.
And then I, eventually my wife and I had a daughter. But these are the people that I carry for. I tell people when I teach classes all the time, I say, listen, I might wear tights, but I'm not a superhero. I am to my kids, and that's the only people I need to be a superhero to. They're the only people that I have to be able to protect.
Yeah.
And that's how I got into it. That was my approach towards everything.
Yeah, you have to. I mean, and when you have I always look at it like my most important job in life as a father, as a husband, as a as a man, is to protect my family first and foremost.
Yeah.
And I don't care what you think about that. I don't care what the public perception is. I don't care what the narrative is. All those people can kiss my butt. It doesn't matter what you think. I know what I'm I'm going to do. I'm going to protect myself and my family and the good people around me, whether they're pro-gun or anti-gun. You know, I always use this scenario here, is the antis, they're always out there with their picket signs, no guns, ban assault weapons, all this stuff.
Yep.
But you put them in a situation in a mall, let's say, where somebody comes in and starts shooting the place up and tells them to get down on the ground while these anti-gunners are face down on the floor begging for their lives and praying
that somebody with a gun comes along.
And you, Charlie Cook, have a 9mm in your belt, and they see you dodge around the corner.
Mm-hmm.
Guess who just became their new best friend?
Right.
You.
Exactly.
Whether they like it or not, they love you.
I've told some people, when I was married and I had a house, I was, buying a little extra food here and there, and people would find out that you're a gun guy and you're preparing for some extra food, and they start thinking about the zombie apocalypse and all this crazy stuff. And they said, well, if something happens, we're going to go to your house. Right. And I always pat them on the belly. I said, well, fatten up before you come over, because we're going to shoot you and eat you.
Yeah, exactly. What do you have? Like, well, don't be touching my oatmeal. What is it?
Right.
Don't be touching my soup.
Right, and I tell people, I say, if you're preparing for the zombie apocalypse, and it doesn't even have to be a zombie apocalypse. It could be Hurricane Katrina. It could be Hurricane Sandy that they had in New Jersey a couple years ago. It could be any of those sorts of things where the electricity's down for a couple of days, for a week.
Yep.
It could be any of that stuff. If you don't have a way, if you have all this food and you can't protect it, you're gathering all that food for somebody who has a gun and can overpower you.
Oh, right.
And take it from you.
Yeah, you're basically his grocery store.
Yeah, exactly. So, that's pretty interesting. So you went right for, you got to be able to protect yourself. You absolutely do.
Yeah, so then I started, I wrote...
Let me ask you this. How was the process in New York State? How was the process to get a gun? Because I know everyone knows that in New York City
New York City is a nightmare. I can't even bring a squirt gun into New York City. So, upstate New York, where we are, Albany, Saratoga Springs, some people might know Lake George. This area, we call this upstate New York.
Right.
And it's a little bit different. Up here, it's a shall issue. Downstate, they have all sorts of rules in the city where they may issue. You know the difference between shall issue and may issue. Well, New York City is very difficult. But up here, it's relatively normal. It's the same process. You take your course and you can get your permit to carry concealed.
Right. I do remember hearing, and this was probably before I was into gun stuff, but I remember hearing that the only people in New York City that had permits were guys like Howard Stern, Don Imus, and Donald Trump. You hear these big, highfalutin guys are the only ones that had a carry permit in New York City.
Yeah, they make it very difficult, and in some areas, what you have to do is you have to write a letter to the sheriff. You have to, slip a few bucks to the mayor. You have to do whatever you got to do for them to issue you your Second Amendment rights. Most ridiculous thing.
It completely is. So the process wasn't too bad. You take a course. How long was the course?
Oh, I don't know. It was a 2 or 3 day course, I think, for the initial permit.
Yep.
And with that, in New York, they give you what's called a restricted, which, again, more BS. It's stupid, but they have a little hunting and target restriction on there, and I think that the only reason they have that on there is so they can have a loophole in court if they need it against you.
Right.
But so then you have another course that you take. You pay another few $100s, and you take another 3 or 4 day course to get your unrestricted.
Wow.
And there's quite a waiting list for the unrestricted. So it's a process. It's a stupid process, unnecessary process. But you want to go left here.
Okay.
We're going to go down Broadway, Saratoga Springs.
Sounds fancy.
Yeah, it's just nice city.
This is pretty cool.
Yeah, if people are listening and they come up to New York, Saratoga Springs is where you want to go. Good restaurants, some of the best restaurants in the country. And we have the Saratoga Harness Track. We have what we call SPAC, Saratoga Performing Arts Center. The ballet comes every year.
Cool.
Lots of big events.
Jaywalkers.
Jaywalkers, yeah.
We got everything.
We have some entitled people too, so they'll walk right in front of you, expect you to stop.
Right. Is this the 2-lane? Are we going to go straight?
It's a 2-lane. Yeah, you can go
All right.
straight.
I'm going to
This
work
is
my way
Congress
over.
Park over here on the right.
Cool. Historic Congress Park.
And we'll loop through here. We'll go down. We'll try to get you down to the track so you can see the racetrack.
Nice.
And then maybe we'll come back through town and buy some cigars.
Oh, sounds like a plan. Sounds delish. So, you got your permit. You got your carry permit. You're up and going. Your wife's on board.
Yes.
For the most part, she's not
against
against
it. Resistance, but she was basically on board.
Yeah.
And then I wrote an article. The way the book started about is I wrote an article called "The Fear of Guns," and it was about that night in detail, and I talked about the whole process.
Mm-hmm.
And that article got picked up by a bunch of websites, and it was all over the place. Before I knew it, I was like, "Holy crap! This is pretty cool."
This internet thing is pretty wild.
Yeah.
You know.
I'm just hanging on as long as the fad continues.
Right.
And then that article turned into the first chapter, what would soon to become the book "Good Gun, Bad Guy: Behind the Lies of the Anti-Gun Radical." That first chapter. But what happened was it was very organic. People ask me, "How'd you write the book?" And it was very organic. I just wrote. It just kind of wrote itself.
Right.
And I didn't really plan much, but all of a sudden I started seeing these chapters unfold, all different components of the gun conversation. As I did my research, I started to let me see where we're going here. I'm going to get in the right lane here.
All right.
Take a right here.
Take a right here.
And we'll try to get you up near the racetrack. But pretty soon, before I knew it, I had all these chapters to the book, and I said, well, what the heck, let's turn this thing into a book. And during the process, I was researching not only statistics and facts and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Many people have done that stuff, and that's great. What I wanted to do is I wanted to get into the mindset of the anti-gunner. What causes them to have these delusional thoughts about guns, and what causes them to be so fearful and so angry and hateful toward guys like you and me, gun owners, NRA members? What
Right.
causes all that stuff? Why do they think we are recklessly and intentionally putting everyone in danger? How does that thought process develop in the minds of anti-gunners? So I knew a little bit of this stuff because of the people that I hung out with, but as I did more research, it all started to unfold.
Yeah.
The strategies and tactics that they use are really, it's kind of amazing actually to understand. Once you understand the whole narrative and how they push this anti-gun messaging.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, that's what the book started to be more about, was the mindset of these people.
Yeah.
And how they're getting manipulated by the media and by politicians and all that stuff. So, Good Gun, Bad Guy. And then Good Gun, Bad Guy 2, destroying the anti-gun narrative, started to focus more on the media part and not as much on the mindset of the people. But
Right.
So the two books kind of go hand in hand. It just kept going. And I like to say the book just wrote itself.
That's cool.
Yeah.
What I like about the book is you, in my world, as a gun instructor and as a gun guy, I say we have pro-gun folks, we have anti-gun folks. I usually call them anti-gun wackos, but we have the anti-gun wackos, and then we have the. I got to be careful where I say this. And then we have the non-gun folks that are the group in the middle that aren't for. They're gun agnostics. They're not for it. They're not against it. Maybe they don't know enough about it, but they don't want to own a gun, so they don't want to stop us from owning guns. I like that you clarify that a bit more.
Well, okay, so let me explain. There are two groups of there's actually three. One is kind of non-gun owners, but we'll keep them out of this for a minute. There are two groups of anti-gunners. You have the anti-gunner, who basically are the average people that we interact with every day. They just don't like guns. They're scared of guns. They think gun owners are reckless and dangerous. They would love to see, they say they support the Second Amendment, But they would love to see your gun rights just gone away. They'd love to see...
They support the Second Amendment, but what do you need an AR-15 for?
Oh,
what
exactly.
do you need a high-cap magazine
it's those people.
for? Yeah.
Let's see, we can try to think of how we can get you around to the track here.
Tell me, man.
Let's get into one of these neighborhoods and look around and go back that way.
A left neighborhood or a right neighborhood?
Let's take a right.
All right.
So that's the anti-gunner. They say they support your Second Amendment, but they would love to see guns just magically disappear. And then we have the anti-Second Amendment radical. These people are different. They know exactly what they're doing. They know that they're creating a narrative. They have a strategy for more gun rights and controlling the population. And they don't care what they have to do to achieve those ends.
Get that, right.
So that's the anti-Second Amendment radicals. So it's a very distinct difference. And the anti-Second Amendment radicals are the politicians. They are the Dianne Feinsteins,
right? The
Nancy
Pelosi's,
and all these people who are constantly influencing the narrative and getting the media on board to scare people. They're the ones who, as soon as there's a school, is this guy gonna?
Yeah, I know. We're gonna have a showdown with this guy.
It's a rental, right? It doesn't matter what we do. Did you get the extra insurance?
This is as Rob Campbell would say, this is what we bought the insurance for.
Well, after you get done, I'm gonna drive it.
Wait a second.
Let's take a look. Oh yeah, no, I gotta spin the rubber off these tires. I'm just kidding. We'll send you back with dents and bald tires and everything.
Yeah, they can take pictures of these cars when they before you pull them off the lot.
We'll get you in trouble.
Right.
But yeah, so they're the ones who influence the narrative and the media.
You know what I'm baffled by when there's a shooting.
Oh, that's what I was going to say. Yeah, go ahead.
Like, how does Dianne Feinstein come out with 70 different rifles that she... Like, where does she get 70 different rifles?
All a bunch of nonsense. And if you notice, the term assault rifle or assault weapon wasn't really used until the 90s when Feinstein brought it out and started introducing that term into the gun conversation. They didn't really use that term.
Right. There was no such thing as assault.
Right. It was used maybe in the military, but it was never really used in the public forum.
Watching like a couple months ago, I watched Stripes. I stuttered over that. Holy crap. I watched Stripes. The Bill Murray, John Candy, comedy movie. These guys are all training with M16s. I know they're movie M16s, but M16s like it was nothing. Didn't call them assault rifles.
Right.
It was just a gun.
Right.
This is a gun.
Well, that's one of the terms that they use to change the narrative. Mm-hmm. And we can probably take a left at that light way up there.
All right.
That's just one of the terms. They'll use other terms like Wild West. This is where they...
Right, yeah, we're going to turn it to the Wild West.
Yeah, want you to think everybody's running around with guns shooting each other. It's just so far from the truth.
It's you mentioned this in the book. I don't know if it was a book or one of the interviews. This one?
Yeah, let's try this one.
I don't know if it was in one of the books or one of the interviews I was listening to you doing some research. But it's interesting to talk to non-gun folks, my semi-anti-gun friends, and they'll say, well, it's going to turn into the Wild West. Somebody's going to pull out a gun because they parked too close to you in a parking lot. And I always like to tell them, if you are going to shoot somebody because someone parked too close to your car, you aren't smart enough to have a gun.
Right. Well, that's true too.
Like, you're going to pull a gun out because somebody keyed your car or parked too close next to you or whatever. They cut you off on the highways. You're going to shoot them for that? Are you kidding me? Do you know why people have guns?
The anti-gunners think that, and you got to wonder, why they would think that in their own mind, because it's what they're thinking. Let me give you an example. I have a friend, and I've told this story before. She's anti-gun, and she found out that I wrote the first book, and I had a conversation with her, and she said, Dan, I know you wrote that book, and I still don't think people should be running around with guns and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I said, what are you talking about? do you know even what you're talking about? And she said, well, I just think it's dangerous. And I said, well, why? And she said,
right.
She said, well, I was in the bank. This is where the story gets really interesting. She says, I was in the bank, and hold on, let me finish the story here in a second. This is the one you want.
Okay.
Take a left here, and we'll go by the track.
All right.
So I was in the bank, and this guy in front of me had a gun right in a holster, right in plain sight. He was an off-duty security guy, whatever. He was in line at the bank cashing his check. And
was it an authorized withdrawal?
And we're coming up on the track. I'll finish the story here in a second. This is the Saratoga harness track. And I don't know, do you have cameras on the outside?
I have a camera that's getting the front of where we're going.
Okay. So if people have never been here but have heard about it, this is it. This is it in the wintertime, so it's not as pretty as it usually is, but that's all the grounds where they have all the vendors and everything like that. You might want to get in the right lane, and we can see be able to see a little bit of the actual track.
I do have a couple friends that come up here race weekend and wear big hats and drink.
Yeah, they wear the funny
juleps.
hats. Yeah. Yeah, and there's all where they across the street where they keep all the horses and they train them and exercise them and do whatever they do. I'm not a horse guy, so I don't know.
Right. Are we going to turn in here?
No, keep going straight. Yep, there it is.
That's cool.
Yeah. I don't know when this place started, but it's really old.
It's really old.
Really old, and a lot of money comes through this town.
Yeah, looks like it. It kind of smells like money.
You'll be able to see one of the tracks here. See that?
Very cool.
Yep.
On the other side of the fence there.
Yep.
Awesome.
So there's the track. And I've lost a lot of money here. Anyway, so she says, well, I'm in the bank and this guy's got a gun on him right in plain sight. And I said, so what?
Right.
Dan, don't you think that's a little dangerous? I'm like, what?
For who?
Right, what are you talking about? And here's, long story short, we went back and forth a couple times. She didn't want to come out and tell me why she thought that was dangerous. Finally she does. She got so frustrated. She goes, Dan, I could have easily taken that gun out of his holster and started shooting people. Ooh. And I'm like, what?
That to me says you're a crazy person.
Yes, exactly. That's the point. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Yes.
These anti-gunners who project this type of insane thought process onto you.
Right.
But the thought process is in their head.
It completely is.
And it's called projection, and it's completely a term that was coined by Sigmund Freud.
Yeah,
it's when you take your thought, you think you know what they're thinking, and you can project your thoughts onto them.
It's complete ridiculousness. I do this with my anti-gun friends. So I have my Massachusetts license to carry. I have to renew it every 6 years. I have I'm a Utah instructor. I have to renew that every 3 years, and in order to be a Utah instructor, I have to have a Utah permit. That's renewal every 5 years. So every 3 years, every 5 years, every 6 years, I'm renewing some sort of a license to have a gun, and I have to go through a background check for each of these. And I like to tell my friends, and we were talking about universal background checks, and I said, well, my son turned 15. He got his FID card, his firearms identification card. He can now have the shotgun, the 20-gauge shotgun I got him when he turned 12. He can now legally possess that once he's 15 and he has his FID card. And then they're like, well, you should have to do a background check on him. And I said, well, he has to go through 2 background checks in order to get his gun license. I have to go through 2 background checks in order to get my gun license. So why would I have to do a background check on my own son? Well, we need to have these, the gun show loophole and all this nonsense. Yeah. And I finally said, listen, you don't have a gun license, do you? No. I said, okay. You know how many background checks you've passed?
Yeah.
None. You passed no background checks. I'm going through them every 3 years, every 5 years, every 6 years. You haven't passed any background checks. Right. You could be a criminal. And I hung up on him, and I haven't talked to him since.
Take it right here.
All right. Like, you guys got to be kidding me. This is completely ridiculousness. Completely ridiculous. It's frustrating. Isn't it?
No, I know it's very frustrating, and we have a lot of new legislation that they're trying to push now, and we have to keep fighting this stuff.
Yeah, we totally do. You're in upstate New York. I'm in Massachusetts.
Saratoga Lake. I don't know if you can see if you can see.
No.
You can see parts of Saratoga Lake here. It's really nice.
I don't think we'll be able to.
Sorry.
I don't want to say I like having the fight. I'm a divorced guy. I don't like fighting anymore.
I still like it a little bit.
I like arguing about it, but I would like to convert more people to gun ownership than to turn people away from it.
Well, that's true. I mean, there's some I think that you can help. You can help them see with logic. I mean, I was one of them. I didn't, I was anti-gun, but I was able to come around. There's some you can help. Some you can't. There's some we just need to defeat.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right, so you got the book. You're friends with a lot of really cool people in the gun world.
Yeah.
And you got this way from writing a book.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. But before you wrote the book, you had a pretty cool lifestyle, right?
Well, I always played guitar my entire life. It was like a third arm for me. I never put my guitar down from the time I was 9 years old. And so I went on and I played in bands, and I toured in some bands, played in a band in New York City called Bandit. I played in a Kiss tribute band where we toured doing the Kiss show.
Nice.
A full Kiss tribute. I had a band called the Dan Wos Project and a bunch of local bands. So I've gotten around, with playing guitar. And so that was always a big part of my life. I don't know how I transitioned into this. It just happened.
Right.
And it's really strange how, but I got to tell you, once I kind of entered I don't even know how it happened, but you entered the gun world, some of my friends and we're talking about some heavy hitters in the gun world, they welcomed me with open arms, and everybody has been just really, really fantastic. Jan Morgan, for one, who got my book off the ground, she was
cool.
Instrumental in helping. And Bill Dolan, my editor, who was a rock and roll guy, fellow guitar player from my area, he came in, he edited my book, and he also trains me, and he's a gun brainiac.
Well, that's too cool. Very cool.
But yeah, a lot of good people. We talked about this before. There's tons of great people.
There really are. I haven't met anyone since I've been doing this that has been that's been a chump, or everyone that I've asked to be on my show has said yes, and they've been helpful and gracious, and it's completely against what the anti-gun folks want us to believe.
Oh, absolutely. The anti-gun narrative is fake, phony. It's a bunch of nonsense, and it's sad that people fall for it.
Yeah, it is. It is.
But we have friends, Eric Pratt, Mark Walters, Willis Lee. I mean, the list goes on.
Do I have a stop?
Yeah, you do.
Okay.
You want to go continue on through there?
Where's my stop at?
Yeah, right here.
Okay.
Head-on collision. That'd be good for
right. That'll be great.
The video.
Good thing I bought the insurance. We get to use it now.
Lot of great
people, and anyone that's got a radio show or a podcast is always willing to have you on and have you talk about your stuff and the things that you have upcoming.
Met a lot of radio people too. Bill Frady, Michael Hart in Alabama. Oh my gosh, I mean, there's just so many people who have been so supportive of me, my books, and getting me on their shows. And Cam Edwards, I was on NRA TV, Grant Stinchfield, all these guys, fantastic. I know you know a lot of these people, and the gun world, like we went to GRPC, that's where you and I were we had some fun.
Well, we got to meet, and
goofing around. That was hysterical.
It's cool because, you become friends with somebody, and I know a lot of people are down on the whole social media thing. Oh my God, I know, right? A lot of people are down on the social media stuff, and people live in this, portraying this glamorous life that they're living, and they're not really living it, and all that sort of stuff. But I love it because I can connect with. If I can connect with you. We were friends on Facebook way before we even connected.
Yeah,
personally.
Well,
and then when we finally get to meet each other, you're like, "Hey, we've been following you for a while. Yeah, how's this going? How's that going?" It's great.
Amanda Suffolk, Amanda
rocks.
Cheryl Todd, and I'm naming all these names because these are all people who are really movers and shakers in the I don't know if you call it an industry, but
in the gun community.
Right?
Yeah. And they'll have you on their show, on the radio show. I mean, they've each got a radio show in different different markets and podcasting and everything. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah,
it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, so I would have never thought that I would have never thought I wrote a book on this topic, but now I am so in this conversation. And on a national level now, and it's so interesting because it just fits, and it makes sense to me to support something.
Right on red, right?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, let's do it quick.
It makes sense to support something like the Second Amendment. It just fits with my personality and what I want to do. They say sometimes you pick your cause, whatever your cause is, whether it's pro-life or whether it's whatever.
Yeah.
You kind of pick your cause and you run with it, but this just seems right to me, and the people are so incredible, and I really think that we're making strides to strengthen our Second Amendment and the perception of our second. As much as they want to destroy it on the left, we have quite a group of people fighting for it. And that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I think the face of gun ownership is not what the anti-gun folks think it is. Like, we're not all, we have all of our teeth. We don't all wear.
We got that narrative. Yeah.
Right. I mean, we don't wear bib overalls. We don't wear camouflage. We don't, all drive trucks and all that sort of stuff. And to me,
some of us are actually very sophisticated and articulate, and we know some big words.
Some big words. Not me, but yeah, we're not what they think that we are, or that gun owners are in their image. And to me, that kind of tells me that they're labeling me and they're looking at me differently.
Well, they need to do that because all the hoity-toity leftists who think they're smarter than everyone else, who think they're better than everyone else, they need to demonize whatever group it is they're opposing. Mm-hmm. We are the biggest threat to the left. We love our country. We understand why our Constitution and Bill of Rights was written, and we will support and defend that to the death. That to them is like ridiculous. Kryptonite to Superman.
Right.
And they think that they're smarter and better and everything else. So they need to demonize gun owners, and I mean conservatives for that matter, and they need to make the appearance that we're the toothless,
right? The toothless,
whatever
fuds. I was having a discussion with a woman one time, and she's very against gun ownership and owning guns and so on and so forth. So we got to some point in the conversation, and she said that she thinks that, if you kill someone, that you should go to hell. And I said, well, we agree on this. I said, you think they should burn in hell. I think they should burn in hell. I think they should get there as fast as possible. You want them to rot in jail. He said, no, that's...
Oh, yeah, you're just taking a faster approach.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
look, we both want them to burn in hell. I'm going to shoot them and kill them. You're going to let them rot in jail.
Yeah.
I want him to get there faster. Get the clock going here, pal.
So we're going back down Broadway.
All right.
We can go drive all the way through. I don't know how far you wanted to go or how long you wanted to go.
We've made plenty of time, so let us get back to wherever we need to be.
Okay.
We still have some daylight, so I think we should be all right.
Okay.
We'll keep going.
What we can do is we can go up through town if you want. Actually, if you want to wrap things up, we can just try to find, if you see a spot on the side, we can pull over
And call it a day. All right. Well, how can people find all of your find your books? You have 2 books. Good Guy, Bad. Crap. I knew I was going to screw it up.
Good Gun, Bad Guy, Behind the Lies of the Anti-Gun Radical, and Good Gun, Bad Guy 2, Destroying the Anti-Gun Narrative. And you can go to goodgunbadguy.net or goodgunbadguy.com or search Good Gun, Bad Guy on Amazon. And did you see how many times I said Good Gun, Bad Guy?
Bad Guy. You got it down pretty well.
That's marketing.
All right. Well, listen, you guys should also check out the Self-Defense Radio Network. There is a Facebook page. I want to say it's sdrn.net is the website. You need to check out all of your pro-freedom podcasts in the same place. You need to subscribe. You need to check out the other podcasts. You've got a show that you're starting up. Real quick, what's that? The Loaded Mic?
The Loaded Mic.
The Loaded Mic.
M-I-C, Mike. You can get it on Zencast, iTunes for the audio version of the podcast, and you can also subscribe to the YouTube channel, the Loaded Mic YouTube. So we're doing a podcast and videocast.
Awesome. Very cool. Very cool. I was on one of the shows recently, so we will put a link to that one. And hopefully...
Fantastic job, by the way.
Oh, thank you very much. And hopefully we can... hopefully we get you on the Self-Defense Radio Network as well, because it's all the cool podcast radio folks.
Good.
And I'm not in charge of it, but I know the people that are at the top.
Will I finally be sitting at the popular table?
You will be sitting at the popular table with the pro gun folks. All right. Well, listen, guys, thank you for watching this episode of Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Please check out Riding Shotgun with Charlie on all of the social media networks. I got a Facebook page. Subscribe to the YouTube channel and subscribe to the podcast, and we will talk to you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Dan, thank you so much, bud.
Thank you.
Thanks.